You may notice us along the way. They've been out here for well over 300 years already. These two buildings on the right side, they house the Briscoe Western Art Museum. They're full of Western art, drawings, paintings, and sculpture of the Western kind, as well as Western artifacts. We also have on site a self-guided sculpture garden, 18 different types of statues with history. For example, you see the bulls that gather to the corner right side there? The history behind that artwork dates back to 1776. This is when the American Revolution had been won. In 1778, their British troops docked at the Alabama coastline and Florida coastline. Not only docked, but encamped. The idea was to come in, attack, and crush the fledgling democracy. At that time, Texas was a part of Spain. At the bequest of General George Washington, Spain did dispatch General Bernardo de Galvez and then Spanish San Antonio, followed by his troops, followed by the bulls, to keep them fed and hardy for the battles that lay ahead. Against the British at home they encountered the Alabama coastline, engaging and defeating. And against the British at home they encountered at the Florida coastline, engaging and defeating. Camino de Galvez, the artist's name is Kelsey. And those two battles were not originated out of old San Antonio. In fact, in 1778, this may never ever have been the United States as we are living it out today. Who started it? San Antonio just holds the premier place in the history of our country. 1718, San Antonio. Look into the forefront right, see the iron sculpture right there? Two hands reaching up to a chalice in the host. The iron sculpture commemorates the first Mass celebrated along the river in 1691. You notice the three arrows on the artwork? They signify the conversion to Christianity of some of the natives. Arrows set voluntarily upon the table. This doesn't mean that one does not know how to accurately and precisely utilize those arrows. It just means that one doesn't accurately, precisely utilize those arrows maliciously. The artist's name is Rolando Brazilio, the artwork's China's father, masked in that table. Arrows set voluntarily upon the table. A conscious free will act of the heart. Coming along the way and looking down River Friends, you see that V-height spire structure up there, the view down river? That is the Bexar County Courthouse, constructed in 1896. That is the largest, oldest, continuously still active courthouse found in the state of Texas today. 1896, Bexar County Courthouse. To the forefront left side is the Tower Light Building, the green top structure they have noticed from afar. If you do gaze different most floors of the Gothic structure up there, you can see the gargoyles extending from the uppermost floors. They go all the way around the top 2 times a day. Devil's water spouts from the head of rainfall. Water cascades out of the gargoyles' mouths, they say. Then there's stone faces here at the base of the Tower Light Building. 4 different expressions, 2 different faces, otherwise known as grotesque. In 1929, the Tower Light was known as the Smithton Young Tower. It's of a Gothic design, designed by Robert and Natalie Harris, a father-son team of architects. 404 feet straight up into the air. They say it's the only octagonal-shaped high-rise in the state of Texas today from the 1920s. Remember that movie Ghostbusters 1? Those are the gargoyles up there from Ghostbusters 1. They extend from the top around the go twice. This building on the right side of the boat, on the immediate right side of the boat, has no historical significance whatsoever. From 1919 to 1963, this was the San Antonio Pharmaceutical Company building. It's the home which we opened today, 1995. The origins of the river valley located approximately 4 miles north of the city, underneath the campus of the Inquiet University. Underground springs are bubbling into the Edwards Aquifer. The vast underground lake, it does run about 180 miles northeast out of the city, and it varies in width, anywhere from 5 to 30 miles at any given time. For reference, depth is 700 feet. It was once the city's only source of drinking water, has since become one of 6 of the city's sources of drinking water. That traffic light before can be green underneath the traffic light below the surface of the water. That's where floodgate 4 does rise on top of the water right here to ward off floodwaters from the heavy rains in the fall. As the river does flow, friends, if we were to take a left and travel on, we'd all be going for 131 Texan miles through 6 Texan counties and off into the Guadalupe River. A few miles inland from the San Antonio Bay, right off the Gulf of Mexico River flows to our left out there, 131 Texan miles. This is a man-made channel. It's 25 foot deep now, and it does top off the Horseshoe Pattern. Please remain seated. Ever since the beginning of modern era San Antonio, downtown's flooded out repeatedly whenever heavy rains had fallen. The worst flooding events to ever devastate the downtown area occurred in 1921. A combination of three storms struck San Antonio simultaneously. Not in sequence as San Antonians claim, but simultaneously. San Antonio claimed to watch storms gather from the north, the south, and the west, and it started to rain non-stop for one day and one night, solid in old San Antonio. The river out this way itself was reported as having risen a foot to down for 10 hours at one point during the continuous rainfall. The following day, when the skies were shining blue, downtown was found under 10 feet of water above street level, where we are right now. This does imply more than 30 foot of water dropped in the downtown area during that 24-hour span of time. There's a very serious proposal to simply eliminate the horseshoe pattern of the river. This is only the beginning. The response was Emily Edwards and Raina Maverick Green, who formed the San Antonio Conservation Society. Together they managed to lobby any and every proponent in favor of paving over any part of the natural bed of the river whatsoever. Consequently, the City Council had taken the final tally, and Mayor Marbury Maverick Sr. did contact then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who through the Works Projects Administration during the Great Depression had the initial construction of law completed between the years of 1939 March, 1941 March. 5 miles worth of initial law construction, 2 years worth of work costing a grand total of $430,000. Looking up here out there is the Houston Street Bridge. Beyond that way is known as the North Channel. The city of San Antonio to this very day, it is susceptible to flash flooding. Sometimes when the heavy rains do fall, potential floodwaters will gather in the North Channel. They work their way down here towards the horseshoe pattern, knocking at street bridges as they flow, posing devastating effects. Here's responsible for the flooding downtown. To the forefront of the boat's floodgate number 3, they come down to the water. Remember, floodgate 4 comes up out of the water. And on the right is the man-made channel, 25 foot deep. To the south and right is the floodgate 5, 25 foot high. South to the activation is the floodgate street 4. To activate floodgate 5, will let it out completely, and all potential floodwaters will bypass the horseshoe pattern altogether and flow to the south end of the city. They store to a tri-level underground man-made aquifer, storing for emergency citywide use. And the waters that do not store flow to the Gulf of Mexico into the Guadalupe River. But I cannot speak in recent memory. When was the last time we had to activate these downtown floodgates in earnest? Due to our now primary flood control system, it's located about 2 miles east from us here, and it runs about 2 miles north to south. It's an underground tunnel 25 foot diameter, completed in 1998. It does work perfectly all by itself, it does. So far, so good. Coming to floodgate 3, friends, brought us into the second half of the horseshoe pattern, going to flow, river depth shores up anywhere from 3 to 10 foot deep. Friends, drawn forward, looking to the forefront left side of the boat there, we see La Mancha Island, constructed in 1852. In 1853, it was known as St. Mary's Institute, a school started by 4 brothers of the Society of Mary. In 1927, it was known as the San Antonio Law School. In 1966, the law school was relocated to a newly completed complex upon the present-day site of St. Mary's University campus today. Thus, regular structure to the left vacant. A graduate of St. Mary's returned to the area. He did purchase the building. He has a 6-story addition overlooking the river where we are now. And internally, the building does incorporate graceful Spanish arches and columns, boasted courtyards plus. The romantic interiors were accented with the antiques of Colombia, Mexico, and Spain. La Mancha Island, 1968. Are y'all enjoying yourselves in the city? How about the rest, y'all? All right. The climate in San Antonio could be kind of tricky during this time of the year because it's cool in the morning, it's cool in the evening, but the edge of the desert pushes straight San Antonio from the south, and summer is drawing nigh. My point is, if you feel that fireball in the sky draw a bead upon you, take it seriously and make sure that you do resource enough H2O to maintain a sense of well-being. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, just a common public service announcement courtesy of Go Rio Cruises. We are at your service. Coming up to the bridge, friends, look skyward to the left, and we see A two-dimensional optical illusion is actually a three-dimensional structure. Now look at the eye, look to the left, right here. This wall is considered to be the finest skeletal territory walls of the Southwest. That's the Dix Hospital building up there, constructed in 1930. It was home to the Dix Hospital until 2018 was undermined since 1930. It's going to become a mixed-use hotel space now. Ever might like to charter a Go Rio cruiser for your private event, it can be contacted at GoRioCruises.com. GoRioCruises.com. We are at your service. Looking to the forefront of the boat up there is the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Notice the fact that building is not very high. You know why? Because located on the other side of that structure up there is Texas's Shrine to Liberty, the Alamo. If that building was any higher than it does appear, it would cast a shadow upon Texas's Shrine to Liberty at dusk. Did you know that to this very day, there are no independently located structures out here in the downtown San Antonio, Texas area that ever could possibly cast a shadow upon Texas's Shrine to Liberty? 3 years to his dunking with delivery dogs, garbage containers, parking spaces, and plain backs of the wall. Just facing the water is the river. Intro Ryan Robert H.H. Hudson, the native San Antonio, returning to San Antonio in 1928 after studying architecture. This was a few years after the worst of the floods, and people were sincerely talking about paving over the horseshoe pattern of the river here, and that was only the beginning. The young Mr. Hugman, he too opposed the idea of paving over any part of the water. Thus, this also added his voice to those attempting to preserve the area. Upon his own initiative, Mr. Hudson does design a master plan for the river. It included buildings, bridges, walks, benches, lights, and waterways. It combined old world charm with the natural beauty of the area itself. He personally designed every single detail of the plan, from powdering the sidewalk to a gadget that changed the light bulb to the light fixture. Mr. Huffington's vision, however, does include everything we see out here, inspiring Texan American San Antonio Day. Stores, restaurants, and apartments, alive with people and activities. A landscaped area that's a world apart, just a flight below. Busy downtown city streets. Any questions? I only have so many answers. On the right side of the boat, friends, upon the Clifton building right here is the historic downtown riverfront office of Robert H.H. Hugman, architect. This whole entire area may never ever had existed as it does appear. It had been for the return of a native San Antonio to San Antonio in 1928.